Growing up as a kid, I spent summers at my grandma's house here in San Diego, and I've always loved this city. I moved here permanently in 1996 to go to college, and through that is where I actually ended up becoming a Christian and where I met my wife and embraced God's call in my life for vocational ministry. And that's where I actually took my first job here in San Diego as a youth pastor. Then after graduating college, made a really difficult decision to move up to LA area to do a couple of different graduate degrees in theology and to further cut my teeth in ministry by taking a college pastor position. Then in early 2005, it became clear that God was calling me to plant a church, to start a new work here in San Diego. And so my wife and I, we packed up our stuff and we moved to this little apartment right over here in Pacific Beach. So this is the place, 2070 Oliver Street. We started out on Sunday nights having Bible study here, just going through the book of Romans, and I'd set up a little music stand in the corner and lay my Bible on it and just start teaching through it, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. We didn't sing in those days, so we would literally just listen to music on an iPod during communion. I think we used to listen to Johnny Cash's My Mother's Hymn Book a bunch. And then afterward, we would throw this party. We would come out here and we would have a barbecue. We'd invite all our friends and coworkers and neighbors, and we'd have a great time. And slowly but surely, more and more of those people, they started coming early to service until we had over 25 people crammed into this little apartment. With our apartment so full, we realized we needed a new place to meet. And so my wife and I literally started driving around praying and looking for buildings we might be able to possibly meet in. And it's that time that we found this marina location at the Musicians Union building. And this became our church home for about 8 years. And it was about the same time that we moved here that we also entered into what became a very dark and challenging period of time for the church. We had this couple living with us at the time, and the guy ended up actually cheating on his wife. And when I confronted him about it, he got really upset and he threatened to kill me and do everything he could to shut down the church. And he nearly succeeded. You know, he somehow, like poison, he was able to get in and corrupt all the other leaders that I was working with. And I lost 3 guys to sinful sex, drugs, and drunkenness. It was a really tough time. You know, the church also wasn't making any money really, so I was working all kinds of other jobs. I managed a record store for a while, then I took this job working at a marketing firm. It was a tough time going through all of this, and there were moments where I really felt like throwing in the towel and giving up and quitting the church plant. But I knew that Jesus had called us to plant this church, but I couldn't do it. You know, no matter how much education I had or all the great ideas I thought I had, I could not make this church grow. And through all that, I learned a very important lesson, that God is really jealous for His glory. In Isaiah 48:11, He says, "My glory I will not give to another." And Jesus Himself said in Matthew 16:18, "I will build my church." And I realized that if this church was going to grow, if anything was ever going to happen, Jesus was going to have to do it. It was kind of shortly after that when things started to really happen. God sent some great leaders along, more and more people started coming to church. A bunch of people became Christians, being baptized. We started multiplying community groups, serving the city, and all kinds of stuff. And really for the last 5 years or so, it's simply gone so fast. It's become one of the most exhilarating adventures ever. Such a joy. What was hard and difficult at first has become one of the most rewarding and fun things to be a part of. I love this church. I love being a part of it. I love being a pastor in it. We were busting at the seams here at the marina site, had grown to 3 services and we're full. So we formed this building search committee to look for a new place. And after 1.5 years, we found this spot that was making wind turbines at the time. And somehow we convinced the landlord to let us bring a bunch of people from our church over there after one of our services. And we were able to dump a chunk of money into it to transform it into church. And so far we've been keeping up pace with a lot of people's generous giving to afford this giant monthly lease and a whole team of paid staff to go along with it. And we are just very, very blessed of what God has been doing in building His church. What do I see ahead in the next 10 years for the Resolve Church? Well, statistics say that 80% of churches will never be more than 150 people. Right now on a Sunday, we're averaging between 400 and 500 people and are currently game planning through cramming a bunch more chairs in here and adding a 3rd service in fall to potentially house 1,500 people. We've got big plans for Resolve School of Theology, for our community groups, for church planting, for a youth ministry. But what excites me more than numbers, more than any of that, is Jesus. What I see ahead for the Resolve Church is continually reaching more and more people for Jesus as we make inroads into the city for His glory. I see us growing in our love, adoration, and passion for the glory of Jesus. Our name, the Resolve, it comes from 1 Corinthians 2:2 in the Bible. It says, "For I resolved to know nothing when I was among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified." It's my prayer on this 10th anniversary of our church that we would ever and always be a church that's fixated on Jesus, on who He is and what He accomplished for us and many others on the cross. Very simply, the Resolve Church is just about Jesus. So thank you, Jesus, for an incredible 10 years, and may we continue to bring you much glory in the next 10.